Good evening and welcome to the May monthly meeting for Corangamite Shire. I'm Mayor Kate May, and my other fellow councillors around the table today. I have Deputy Mayor Laurie Hickey, Councillor Ruth Strain, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Jamie Vogels, Councillor Geraldine Canady, and Councillor Nick Cole. And also around the table we have directors and managers. So we have Sean Broadbent, Director of Works and Jared Woff, Manager of Facilities and Recreation, Lyle Bond, Manager of Environment, Aaron Moyne, Manager of Planning and Building. We have David Harrington, Director of Community Services, Jackie Thomas, Manager of Finance, Chris Asenjo, Manager of Governance and Support, and my CEO, David Ray, beside me tonight. First off, I'll get going with the prayer. We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made with the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of Corangamite Shire. Amen. Okay. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Mar and the Wadawurrung people. We pay respects to all the Aboriginal elders and peoples past and emerging. Mr. CEO, do we have any apologies tonight?
Madam Mayor, there are no apologies this evening.
And do we have any declarations of conflicts of interests?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Beard has declared a material conflict in relation to item 9.0.
Thank you very much. We have some confirmation of minutes from 2024. Can I please have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, second by. All those in favour? Passed. Thank you. So we have a couple of deputations in the audience. So I'll call upon the applicants to make their deputations. You have 5 minutes time and then we will cease after that. Thank you. So first up we have on agenda item 8.1 permit application of PP 2023/122, the 2-lot subdivision Williams Road, Scotts Creek. Mr. Kevin Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm Kevin Johnson. I'm from Midway, and we act as agent and representative for Otway Silver. And we'd certainly like to council and the planners for their work and consideration of our planning permit applications.
2 seconds, Kevin. Can you go a little bit closer to you?
This is all right?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Certainly. We understand that subdivisions are discouraged in rural zones, but that small lot excisions are if potential concerns about land use conflict and ongoing use of land for agricultural activity are addressed. We believe our application shows that agriculture can be on the balance of the lots as timber production or in future some other types of agricultural use. The house isn't required for the farming use of the property, in particular at this house. At Williams Road, the previous owners were not living on the property, currently renting the house out. The house is in habitable condition. It's at the front of the property in service of the road. And we certainly tried to design the lot in a manner that didn't prejudice any of the rural activities and agricultural production. About practical outcomes, and council has advised of their concerns regarding all lot excisions. We certainly note that council does regularly approve such applications, but certainly deny some of them as well. We've sought input from council to see how we can make our application more appealing in relation to town planning, but also again in practical outcomes. With a for subdivision, the houses will get a new and more environmentally sustainable septic system. That's the process to upgrade those. But we're also undertaking repairs and maintenance to make these more attractive for new families. Things like restumping or repainting or new heating. There's a range of capital improvements that we're looking at. It's in anyone's interest to lose a house to the community. And we think by divesting the house, these houses will be able to certainly continue on into the future and remain viable places of residence. We're currently renting these houses out, but our client has made it clear that they do not want to rent them and won't be renting them in the long term. So we'll have to in some form or another. Council and its planners and direct applicants like Otway Silver to look for improved planning outcomes. And there's simple things that we could do, like maybe putting screening around the houses to, again, some of that land use conflict that might happen. Even if they were rented, they'd probably, there's always the potential conflict. I suppose the other thing that council's done in the past is create Section 173 agreement to prevent further subdivision and even consolidate other small lots on the farms. Another means I've seen council use is to direct that Section 173 agreements that the council would require that any future owners of the house acknowledge the rural uses around it and to not interfere with those rural uses. In closing, I just want to say we certainly want to work with council to understand further what requirements they might see to make some of these house lot decisions more appealing from a town planning and from a practical outcomes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. I now call on Dean Buckley on behalf of the applicant for agenda item 8.3, planning permit application PP 202377, a two-lot subdivision on 93 Tomahawk Creek Road, Simpson. Thank you, Dean.
Mayor. Good evening, councillors, and thank you again for reviewing our application. Two, Frank and Glennis live less than 900 metres from the edge of Simpson. The proposed house lot will have a lifestyle farm, a water supply and their own farm as neighbours. They have lived here for 44 years, and when they moved, no infrastructure, no farming and virtually no Simpson. We all know why the planning rules for farming zones stop the inappropriate loss of agricultural land and to manage the land use conflicts. Typically piggeries, spray drifts, odours and noise. Not relevant here. The recommendation is for refusal. I've read for tonight's agenda and I don't disagree with most of it. It's quite good, I thought. But as an agricultural, I arrive at a completely different conclusion. But then my job, my passion, my life is to advance agriculture and so do the policies and guidelines as outlined in the officer's report in tonight's agenda. Or excision is clearly an allowable use in the zone, otherwise it would not be included in the scheme. And in the officer's report of the agenda, the requirements are 35073 farming zone subdivision. A permit may be granted to smaller lots if the subdivision is to create a lot for an existing dwelling, the subdivision. Clause 1401-1S, land from agriculture. The proposed house site is already largely removed from the main body of the farm. To say that it will be removed from agriculture is not right though. Our family was looking for a property like this. For development, it would produce 10,000 bottles of Shardy or Pinot. According to APL, it could produce 150,000 kilos of apples or pears. It's not a loss to agriculture, it's an opportunity for different and higher value farming types that don't want 100 acres. What I very much doubt is that this property location will not be used to support agriculture forever. The conditions of 1401-1 agriculture, subdivision in the farming zone. discourages subdivision unless the subdivision will enhance farm consolidation lots between farms and will not adversely impact on the ability to use the land for agriculture. Decisions of lots unless all of the following apply. It can be demonstrated that the farming can be continued on the lot unhindered. The dwelling is not required for the farming use of the property. The dwelling is in a habitable. The dwelling is at the front of the property. The dwelling is serviced by a road. The lot is designed in a manner that will not produce production activities. The application ticks the agricultural protection boxes. I agree with the assessment that strategic view needs to be taken of farming where any assessment is made. But what is the strategic view, please? I beg someone to provide meaningful guidance for what for agriculture for the next 20 years. So, one more page. Potential for use for conflict has been raised between the old dairy and the house. That dairy is not going. The investment in replacement stainless and technology would be prohibitive, and a new one would be better value and, of course, better. I have a client at Lang Lang bringing the old shed back, and they are up to $750,000 and regretting the. We've heard that farming people should go into town when they are finished, but they're buying motels, hotels, nursing homes, caravan parks, and plenty of houses. A foreseeable loss of town accommodation by demanding farm people live in towns. Keeping them out of towns would be the smarter idea. Planners have contributed enormously to our community, and they deserve this. Excuse me.
I think this is enough.
Stop. Or I've got one clause. Have contributed enormously to our community, and they deserve the certainty and respect they ask for, so they can plan the next step for them they have lived on for over 40 years. It might be family as succession, or it might be the neighbouring dairy farm buy it, but none of that happens without the security of residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have item 7. We have no committee reports today, so I'll move on to item number 8, which is planning report. So 8.1, planning permit application PP 202-122, two-lot subdivision of at 580 Williams Road, Scotts Creek. Mr. Moyne.
Madam Mayor, through you, I present Council with this report for planning permit application PP 2023-122. The application for a two-lot subdivision being an excision of a dwelling, which will excise the dwelling from the balanced farmland. The owner of the retain the land for timber production, being a blue gum plantation, and sell the dwelling as they have no ongoing use for it. Current plantation notice is in place on site, and the blue gum plantation has been planted. The subject site has an area of 6 hectares approximately, contains a dwelling, sheds and dairy, with the balanced land used for the previously used for now a plantation. Land within the area is used for agriculture associated with dairy and beef production. An adjoining property in common ownership to the southwest has also been planted out for timber production. Proposal lot 1 of 6.6 hectares containing the dwelling and outbuildings and a former dairy. And lot 2 being 62 hectares of balanced farmland for the plantation. Public notice has been given and no objections have been received. Planning assessment of the application has been undertaken and focuses on the policy direction of the Corangamite planning scheme, discouraging the rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas, particularly where they raise issues around continuation of agriculture and conflict. The planning scheme discourages the creation of rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas, which may restrict and future growth of agriculture in the Shire. Whilst the proposed subdivision may enable the existing dwelling to be sold and agriculture, a high level of weight should be given to the protection of agricultural land over short-term housing needs. The current of the land does not warrant or justify the need for the subdivision, and the subdivision will lead to land use change where there is value in property as an entity. The application will result in fragmentation of agricultural land and is in conflict with policy direction in the planning scheme and provisions of the farming zone. Recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Bogles.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Find my notes, if you can bear with me for a second. I'll click every other page. Oh, there you go, David. All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we've been thrown a massive curveball with the blue gums moving in, and the fact that the blue gums don't require any workforce. The houses on their properties are obviously coming up for subdivision. Our planning scheme does not allow this to happen either, and that, as it is, and it should be the case. But with both sides of government signed up to net zero, it makes you wonder whether this is a fad, or like the MIS scheme, or the and this is just the beginning, and that's just some food for thought. Obviously, the houses will be bulldozed, and I think it's not a complete disconnect from agriculture to have the small lots through farming communities, because I've got about 7 types of small lots surrounding my property, and these are not disconnected, but actually symbiotic. Was it? No, I can't think of the word for that, but close to agriculture. And we've got surrounding me. You've got teachers who teach our children, hairdressers, and don't laugh because I don't need one of those, but people around me do. We've got electricians, mental health professionals, and I don't have issues, but obviously you can issues, and that's depending on who lives there. I think that's less to do with the size of the property, and more the person that you're lucky enough or not lucky enough to have to get next to you. I don't have a crystal ball, but on these occasions there's no trigger to pull, and there's no other way to go than to go with the officer's recommendation. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bogles. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and this is similar to a number of other resolution plans that we've been looking at, and unfortunately I need to, I agree with Councillor, I don't unfortunately agree with Councillor, I do agree with Councillor Vogels, but unfortunately I can't support this subdivision going through. I think that we do a little bit of crystal ball gazing when we do this, because it's usually the people who are agricultural industries that do move into these houses, and they have that connection rather than a disconnect. But there is also a misfortune that they don't connect, or the properties are sold on to people who have a tree change but don't understand the ramifications of what it is to be living in an agricultural area. When the house has forestry right around it, and you know, whether it is forestry or it's dairy or it's grazing, you know, I think it's important that the property does stay tied to the farm. We certainly don't want to lose houses, and I appreciate Mr. Johnson says that they're not in the business. I would encourage Otway Silver to continue to rent the houses. At least they still have some control of who is in them. The last thing that they want to have is people in the houses that object to the land use surrounding them. So Mr. Johnson also mentioned about screening, and while that might disguise the visual amenity of farming practices, it's not vermin certainly won't be reduced by landscaping. So on those issues, I support Vogel's motion to refuse this permit.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I completely agree with my previous councillors who have moved and seconded that recommendation. Mr. Johnson, we've actually become quite known to you because we've had quite a few of these applications come before council in at least the last 6 months anyway, and I appreciate that you continue to fly the flag for your client, and you try your best to get the best outcome for everyone involved. It's not that we don't with the state and the local planning policy framework, because there's been times where I know I've gone against the officer recommendation. That's where we continually remind ourselves and our communities that we look at everything on a case by case, and not you know, because we've done it on one thing, we do it on another. And I think this is another one of those examples where it hasn't been tested yet in any other way than us, I guess, supporting our framework that we have here. And there's a good reason for it. We highly regard our agricultural industry. And there's actually a challenge that I out to Midway, or Otway Silver, I should say, that there's a big part of being an amazing citizen opportunity here. And I know you, Kevin, really do your best to get out and be engaged in the local community, Simpson area. There's no reason they can't change that mindset that we're not in the game of renting houses. This is us, our communities, when we talk about we're needing key worker housing, there's no reason that they can't do that, changing their ways. And then that would, I think, keep everybody happy. But in saying that we haven't got it, but I would like to think that we could get to that point. But in this instance, for this particular application, my councillors before me. Thank you.
Any other commentary? Yes, Councillor Vogels.
Oh, just to finish off, Madam Mayor, there's no win in these situations. I don't think you have to worry too much about noise and smell from agriculture. We're not that bad. I think one of the other issues, like renting the houses out, is not an ideal from either. Whether they're sold and some you have some sort of conflict there, as opposed to you have them rented out with a conflict there. There's a lot of concern in the community for any of these things. So they're just moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Nothing more to add. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to 8.2, planning permit PP 2023/126, two-lot subdivision of 329 Centre Road, Des Moines.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you I present council with this report on this planning application, PP 2023. Many similar aspects to this application, so I'll summarise as quickly as possible. This is, again, for a two-lot subdivision house lot excision, with the property owner seeking to retain the land for timber production, sell the dwelling. Again, a current plantation notice is in place and a blue gum plantation has been planted on the property. Subject land has an area of 109 hectares in this case, with a dwelling, sheds, former dairy, with being used previously for agriculture as a dairy farm and now a blue gum plantation. Surrounding land use primarily for agriculture. However, there are a number of house lots existing nearby. 5 residential properties exist directly nearby, with the most recent planning permits issued in 2007 for a subdivision. Proposed house lot, lot 1 of 3.91 hectares and lot 2 of 105 hectares of the balanced land. No objections obtained through public notice. Again, many similar issues here around investment, with concerns and the planning scheme discouraging the creation of small rural residential lots, which lead to issues. The proposed subdivision may enable the existing dwelling to be sold and separate from agriculture, but consideration needs to be given to protection of productive agricultural land. The other will also lead to fragmentation of land and is in conflict with strategy and policy direction in the planning scheme. So the recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Beard, I'll go. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Johnson, for coming and addressing our meeting. And yes, again, what you said is very well listened to. I, however, must support the officer's recommendation in this case, for many of the reasons that have already been expressed at this meeting. A timber plant harvest can go through within a blink of an eye, so 10, 15 years, something like that, does seem to be, you get the quicker it does seem to go, but it does seem to go very quickly, and at some stage there is always that possibility to livestock agriculture, in which case there will be necessarily needing a house to maintain those places. Similarly, as far as the right to farm goes, I agree that this is outside our policy, the rural residential policy. It is outside that policy. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to, well, not unfortunately, but my decision is not to go against the council's recommendation, the manager's recommendation. So, yes, happy to support what's in front of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor
Through you, Madam Mayor, and look, not much more to say, but as Councillor Vogels, what stood out to me, what you said before, there is really no winner in this. On-site inspection here, this is an amazing rotary dairy sitting there and a really decent house that's sitting. I really hope that is being able to, I mean, obviously not the dairy, but it's up to the property owners prior to Midway that they do what they want when they decide to sell. But we are losing land here and infrastructure that really does sit with a typical dairy. It's a pity, but as Councillor Vogels, I'll go back to that where you said it's no win. So, again, I support the officer recommendation and stick to what our framework is currently local and state.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary? Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did go and visit this house and subdivision site. It's beware, as a farmer, if I retired, it would beware I'll do that. How good would this be? A heap of sheds to stay at everyone's ray, tinker around, and as a retired farmer, I would not be keen to move into town. I think that would cause conflict of if you had a dairy farmer living in town next door. But it's sort of perfect for a retired. You could have your chickens and whatever, which is actually chickens are the gateway drug into farming. If people, but it's just sad to see that there's no way forward to approve this one, considering location and the other things have come up.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommend. Sorry.
Just to complete one thing. Sorry, I did need to mention that I wasn't able to attend the planning site visit. However, I did it really well, and it is a lovely aspect. It's a very well presented dairy farm that infrastructure used again at some stage. So I don't know how obsolete it will be, but it is very well set out. So I just thought I might add that too. Thank you, Mayor.
No worries, Councillor Hickey. No other commentary. Recommendation to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. I'll move on to planning permit application PP 2023/077, a two-lot sub 93 Tomahawk Creek Road in Simpson. Mr. Moy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I present this report on application PP 2023-077. This application again seeks approval for a two-lot subdivision being an excision to excise the dwelling from the balanced farmland. The application indicates the purpose of the subdivision is to enable the owners to remain and sell the balanced farmland. However, contrary information was provided at the council planning site inspection. Owners were seeking to continue to live in the dwelling and manage the farm themselves with no immediate intention to develop this land. The subject land is an area of approximately 79 hectares containing a single dwelling, several farm sheds and a former dairy and associated infrastructure with the dairy farm. The balanced property is farmland which had been used previously in conjunction with the dairy farm and now a beef production business. Surrounding land associated with agriculture, whilst the property is the property to the north, is associated with, and noting the adjoining rural residential property and water storage facility. Seeks to create the lot 1 being 4.7 hectares approximately with the existing dwelling and an associated outlet from Tomahawk Creek Road. Lot 2 of approximately 74 hectares of balanced farmland containing the agricultural building infrastructure and land for beef production. Public notice has been given and no objections have been received. Planning assessment focuses on the policy direction in the planning scheme, discouraging the creation of small rural residential productive agricultural areas where they raise potential land use conflicts and issues around the continuation of agriculture. Our planning scheme discourages these rural residential lots in productive areas, which may restrict continuation of growth of agriculture in the Shire, including the need to protect productive agricultural land, avoid its fragmentation, which does not support farming outcomes. Proposed subdivision appears to be made on a speculative basis, land use change and a disconnected rural residential use from agriculture itself, instead of supporting planning directions. The proposal will not enhance farm consolidation or trading and is not required currently for the ongoing agriculture of the land. The subdivision also raises fragmentation, land use conflict and compatibility issues. Planning policy seeks to avoid and has the potential to restrict the ongoing operation of growth of agriculture on the subdivision has not been adequately justified and again is in direct conflict with the strategic and policy direction of the recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, as a recommendation before, I have a mover for that one.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move a proceeding to defer consideration of item 8.3 plan permit application PP 2023-077 for a two-lot subdivision at 93 Tomahawk Creek Road, Simpson, to the June council meeting.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Beard, do you want to talk to you?
Yeah, thank you. Speaking to this procedural motion, I'd like to acknowledge that while we have had on-site inspections and spoken to the applicant, there are a number of matters that I would like to have further information on before making a decision. This would be a delay of 1 month, only 1 month, and I would like to provide some more time to consider the options and other approaches that might be considered, including 174 agreement, other possible conditions and the like. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No worries, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I'll to second that just to see where the motion was going to sit. In terms of how I feel about it, I'd like to get some more information too. I feel like at the planning site, I mean, when we had the inspection on the day, there was a little bit of conflict, but a misunderstanding in potentially the boundary, the excision, what do we want to call it, the boundary line? I'm looking at
Lot boundary, yes.
lot boundary, that's it. Thank you. And since then, trying to get some clarity, and I can guarantee our Mel, who's not here, our planning officer, have been working behind the scenes to try and get that clarity, and I think we need a bit more time. Again, as I said before, we do take each application on its merits, and we have to really separate this, what else we've been looking at tonight, two completely different excision applications, and then we've got this particular that's right on the edge of town too. So there is a little bit extra in this, and I think a couple of years ago, spoke about previously when we actually met with the applicants, it probably may have gone through a lot more. We hadn't had the issues we're seeing around excisions in farming land like we're having now. There's a real influx. So it would be irresponsible of us just to tick it off and not think of the repercussions of that. So I like Ms. Councillor Vogel's information on how exactly the applicant would like this to see going forward, and come back and revisit that.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, do we have any other commentary regarding this procedural motion? I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I'll move on to 9, which is officer report. So I move on to 9.1, the Corangamite Shire draft budget forward to 2025. Ms Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to release 2025 draft budget, including the fees and charges scheduled for public exhibition and feedback. The budget contains $9 million of commitments, which includes $28 million of projected capital works. Capital works include $8.5 million for road upgrades and renewal, and $11 million for the completion of the sustainable town centre revitalisation project. The budget has been based on a 2.75% in rates and charges, which is in line with state government's fair go rate system, or rate cap, but it is well below CPI rates. The waste management charge is set to increase by 5.35%. Reflects the impact of inflation on the costs associated with the service and includes the introduction of the new curbside glass service. The budget allocates resources on an annual basis to support the council plan delivery, particularly the strategic initiatives and annual action plan. The budget aims to meet these objectives in the most sustainable manner possible, whilst continuing to provide quality services to all sections of the community. This is a responsible budget given the external factors, particularly around the current high inflation, and aims to keep council in a financially sustainable position into the future. Initial public consultation was conducted over December with 20 responses received from community and covered items such as road, footpaths, open space, signage and LED. These submissions were considered by councillors and officers and helped inform the draft budget which is presented tonight. This report is recommending that the draft budget proceed to public exhibition and invite public submissions. Submissions will close on the 10th of June, and anyone that requests inviting to speak to councillors about their submission will have the 11th of June. Mayor, the recommendations are before you.
Thank you, Ms Thomas. Councillors, there's a recommendation for us. Do I have a mover for that one, please?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an alternate recommendation, please.
Sure, Councillor Kennedy, where's your...
Thank you. The alternate recommendation that Council 1 endorse the 24-25 draft budget to proceed to public exhibition and invite public submissions in accordance with the local 2020 and Council's community engagement policy, with submissions closing at 5 p.m. Monday, 10th of June 2024. 2. Notify the public of its intention to adopt at a council meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, 25th of June 2024, the proposed 2024-25 budget prepared in Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. 3. In accordance with Council's community policy, consider and, if requested in writing, hear any submissions received in relation to the 2024-25 draft budget at a council meeting on Tuesday, 11th of June 2024. And 4. When adopting the proposed 2024-2025 budget under Part 2, Council allocation for the development of structure plans for the townships of Camperdown and Terang, subject to further investigation.
So we're just adding number 4 to the recommendations that were already there. No,
Yes,
no. A seconder for the alternate, the extra recommendation that's sitting on there, proposed by Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Kennedy, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. I'll speak to Part 4 first. My view, we need to be prepared, and that is the key when we're preparing structure plans. Our focus needs to be on longer-term benefit to our communities. The structure plans would be the most effective tool we can provide to position our towns and communities as best we can for enablement of future land use, population and residential housing growth and infrastructure plan, which also opportunity for investment. I believe this is the responsible use of our council budget, our community expectation and our council plan. We have a great planning team who have the momentum and have assured us that they have the capacity to undertake it. They also have current intellectual knowledge of the Terang and Camperdown towns and their communities. I believe that that would be required for this work will bring very large impact, important legacy decision that we need to leave because it will have long-term generational benefit to our lives. So that's Part 4. I can go on and speak to the itself. And I do, of course, want to emphasise that the budget is still in draft and may be subject before it comes back to the council meeting in June. And I would encourage the community to provide the we've requested, because we do appreciate it very much, and definitely do take it into consideration preparing our final budget plans. The finance team, as said, has delivered a balanced budget with steady investment in capital projects of $28.5 million. This includes the completion of the Port Campbell Town Centre Revitalisation Project, which has been a really big project, a very exciting one. 23 million of that will come from council operations and 4.5 external grants. We have kept focus on maintaining a high level of services with our community expectation. And of course, you know, we know that those services are very valued in our community, and we appreciate that it's important to maintain that high level. Rates, of course, are a worry for many people in the community, and they do represent 40% of our revenue. That's a large chunk of the revenue that council needs to work with. As I said, that is a principal and well, of course, the rate is a principal and most reliable source of revenue that we have. We don't have many other options to raise revenue. We need to exercise the rate cap allowance to ensure that that is at least as consistent as it can be, if you like. You know, so continue with our operations and support our communities. The differential rating is applied all the same to try and achieve a more fair distribution of the rating burden, as it is well known that our farmers do portion of that rating burden. Having said that, though, property owners access other avenues to ease the burden of that payment through some schemes through the council to assist people to meet their rate obligations. And of course, you can contact our front desk for advice. The revenue that we spend, much of it does go back into our communities through the provision of services and programmed road capital renewal. And all of that's important. Footpaths, waste management and other projects we consider very deeply that we believe will bring community benefit. As said, there will be some increases in fees and charges, the waste management being one of those. That's partly due to an increase in state government levies. Like other organisations, the council is feeling the pinch, the effects of inflation, rising costs and decreasing government. But all the same, the draft budget does deliver an operating service financially sound. And as I've often referred to before, our finance officers wisely continue to put aside reserves for known future commitments so that we're prepared for those. And I think it's very important that they take that approach. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Bishop.
Councillor Kennedy's left me with nothing to say.
No, she hasn't. No.
I've just got cross. I thought, please don't mention the reserves because that's all I've got left to speak to. I will say that the finance team do an amazing job, and I also want to congratulate the council because doing budgets isn't the easiest thing. Documents that come to us, we go through them with a fine-tooth comb, but it's always done with a lot of respect, consideration where people's interests lie. But as Councillor Kennedy's alluded to, you know, we have limited revenue raising and we are impacted by rising costs, by lack of materials, the same as is happening, I think, right around the world with pressure in homes. So we're really not much different, except we have an awful lot of services that we need, and the pot's getting smaller and smaller. I think you mentioned, Councillor Kennedy, 46% of our from our rate revenue, and the balance comes from usage charges, and as well as getting harder and harder to get, as we've seen with the state and federal budgets that have come out recently, who are battling with rising costs and have substantial borrowing. So from the fact that I think it's a good thing that Corangamite Shire does not have any debt, and we are very careful to budget within our means. Yes, 20 million in capital expenditure. It seems a lot, but $8.3 million of that is going to roads, nearly $3 million management, including a composting system trial. And once again, we talk about the amount of money that comes out of Corangamite Shire that goes into revenue at state government level. There's a $3.6 million investment in heavy fleet replacement, which obviously is tied to our road infrastructure. We'll be really, really pleased to see the completion of the Port Campbell Town Centre revitalisation project. I don't know how long it's been going on for, but it seems like a very long time, and I'm sure that's what it is for the people of Port Campbell. We continue to invest in our footpath network, and I'm pleased to see that there is a potential path up Park Lane here from Bowen Street to Botanic Gardens, which will be subject to a special charge scheme, upgrade to the path network in the Botanic Gardens, which is, and our well-loved libraries are going to receive some work on their facades and furniture. So, important to our community, and as Councillor Kennedy said, it is a draft budget. We would like to hear your comments, and you have the opportunity to present to Council if you want to at a special meeting on. So, thank you, Madam Mayor. I commend the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Strang. Any other commentary? Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the fourth budget that I've been involved in from the term on this council, and far has been the most difficult. Those three letters CPI have had a major impact on the way this budget has been developed. And as anybody knows, even with your own family household budgets, there's a lot more on energy provision, on fuel provision. Costs are going up continually, and so there has been a squeeze on our line. So there's not as much fun stuff, I suppose. However, it has been it's been a very diligently prepared budget, a lot of fiscal discipline exercise to make sure that we have been able to prepare a budget that is acceptable to most. Charges like municipal waste charge and many others that have already been mentioned have been thrust upon us, which has meant that there have been other areas missed out. It was suggested to me that as a council, it's not your money, so it doesn't really matter. However, let me assure anybody that it's probably more important that we deliver a budget that is not our money, although, of course, as a ratepayer, it is in part. It's probably with that thought in mind that we make sure that this is done to the best of our ability and to the utmost of our discipline, of our financial discipline. Want the public to come along and make some comments about this budget. It's a budget. It'll be difficult to pick holes in it, but you're invited to come and exercise. And the last thing I'd say is that I do support Councillor Kennedy's initiative by bringing that major development, the strategic planning of both Camperdown and of Terang forward to this year, because I work that fits very neatly in this council. What do you call it? It's building on the council term, building on a lot of the initiatives that have already been developed, and we've already. And there are a number of areas that can be pulled from the development of other studies to make this work very well. So I think the structure plan is probably a critical part to this as well. Very happy to show my support for this budget, and I'd be to hear what public consultation comes up with.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you. And I think we do a really good job when we sit in the chambers and we talk about when we workshop the draft budget as ratepayers, and we're constantly reminding each other, how do we feel about it? How does it affect all of us? Because everybody else. We just happen to be the ones sitting at the table. We've always been constrained. As soon as rate capping came in, a rate cap that sits fair way below CPI, those living cost pressures hit, particularly an organisation like ours, when we talk about inflation. So what we do is still get the best out of the money that we have, which is to the expectation of our community, particularly around service delivery. All the time that we want this, we want that, we deserve, we need this, we need that, and we always agree, but we try at a cost of losing another service and still providing those capital projects that continually get asked to. I noticed Mr. Woff sitting here, you would know full well in your team the amount of expenditure that's expected for capital when it's even around sport and recreation, let alone what we need in early years and things like that. So constantly there. I think we're also very mindful, even though we do take the rate cap and we do enforce that, is because we have a 10-year financial plan that we do, by legislation adhere to, that we have to produce. There may be, if not one, I don't think there's any more, and she may be more aware of a council that may be looking at a zero rate rise, but if that it comes at a cost, whether it be that you lose a service to your community or you send your into financial despair. And we're not prepared to do that. This council is not prepared to do that. We all share the load. Our final last 6 months, and I think what the draft budget that we're putting up tonight is very conservative. It's also reflective of our commitment to the council plan that we came up with when we all first started together. It wasn't just ours, that was as an organisation, and each year that is reflected upon from each department. The staff have had an input into the draft budget before it even gets to us. So it's certainly been a robust experience again. And thank you to my fellow councillors. I think we've got it down to a fine art. And we all think the same, and we want less implications on our communities, but we also want the best outcomes for them. So I do want to make note. I think a few of the projects have been certainly identified, but it just seems to have grown year after year. Is the grant funding that we provide our communities, and we're almost, I would say, $5 million that we actually identify and put back into our community through various grant funding opportunities. I know Councillor Australian, like me, has been here for a long time, and that is a record. So it just goes to show that we're forever trying to think of ways to help those that provide the best services to our communities. So that I think that's pretty much it for me. And yes, I like everyone else, everyone needs to read it and give us their feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Beard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't got a lot to add to comments. One I will add is I know the rates are high, especially on a lot of farms up north anyway. They're extraordinarily high, they're having doubled in the last couple of years to quite a considerable impost. One thing about the rates and the local shire is actually the money is collected and spent locally, so in the shire and things. But the big problem I have with it is our fire levy is going to increase this year by 10%. That money is collected and sent to Melbourne. We actually don't get much of it down here. I don't think that a lot of it goes in. We're still suffering with fairly old gear in a lot of ways. We don't get help with a lot of things that we need, and it's adding up to a considerable amount of money that is actually going out of the district now. So 23% on everyone's bill this year of the fire levy will be going to out of the shire. It won't be spent here more than likely. So yeah, that's my belief about the whole thing, is the levies and things that we collect on behalf of other people and send them out of the shire, and we don't get it, and we have to do them people for it. So it looks like we're charging a lot of it, some of it's going out of no benefit for us, or very little. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole.
No, enough said, I think, Mayor.
Right, thank you, councillors. I will just again remind the public that out for public comment, so please jump online. You have until 5 p.m. Monday, the 10th of June to do this. One in person on Tuesday, the 12th of June. So we really need your comments and your feedback as to what's in the draft budget, because this helps shape what we do in our community. So with all that commentary, councillors, I put the recommendation to favour. Carried, thank you. I'll pause for a moment. If anyone in the gallery, feel free to leave at any stage. You're more than welcome. You do not have to stay, but feel free to leave whenever you'd like. So I'll move on to 9.2, the Skipton Structure Plan. Mr. Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I present council reports on the Skipton Structure Plan for council's adoption. The structure plan arises from the need to review and provide long-term planning and increase community interest in the town's future growth. Preparation of the structure plan has been contributory funding by the Victorian Planning Authority as part of their former Streamlining for Growth program. The plan is presented, which will provide council with strategic direction to facilitate future land use development, residential, commercial and industrial growth in Skipton. The plan will allow for a more sustainable town directed from flood-prone areas and providing greater certainty for landowners, community developers and stakeholders. The plan aims to position Skipton to accommodate long-term population growth and diversity of housing, giving effect to a vision and key direction. The implementation plan has also been prepared to guide future actions by council, public authorities and the private sector. And engagement has formed a central component of the project, with a project working group established and chaired by Councillor Cole. Input and feedback and directions into the plan. 2 stages of community consultation have also been undertaken in shaping the development of the plan. Engagement has occurred and will continue with Wadawurrung Regional Corporation around opportunities for cultural values assessments and cultural heritage projects in Skipton. The plan is a significant strategic document for council in Skipton and will provide long-term direction around the growth and change of planning scheme amendment is the next step to give statutory effect to the plan, updating planning policy and controls. The recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor, a seconder. Councillor Castrain. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's been a process, the Skipton Structure Plan. We've had many meetings up there and there's been a lot of people come along and various meetings, and it's all been sort of pulled together and at the other end as a structure plan, basically. Anyway, I think it's an exciting thing to see. It's got a lot of opportunity and chances. It's a very, very scenic creek the Emu Creek running through the middle of it, and it's great. It's closeness to Ballarat is a great, close enough to be able to commute, but far enough away not to have to sort of be a problem to you can get away. So you can get it quite easily and yet be away in that country sort of relaxed lifestyle, which is a great. The structure plan is not going to fix things overnight, but it's a part of sort of setting the town up for future development and future growth, and so there's a little bit of time to get going, but it's a step in the right direction. So it's identifying the areas that the town can grow and how it can grow and what it needs, etc., etc. So it's part of the deal with getting Skipton back on track and keeping it going in the right direction, we hope. I have no problems moving.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I reiterate, I agree with Councillor Cole about Skipton. I mean, it is a very, very resilient little town. It's absolutely many towns that could go through 3 major flood episodes in, I think, all of 12 years, come out the other side, and they certainly do band together. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion around the structure plan, which is basically, setting up Skipton for the next 15 years. And, we're directing, new residential zones, commercial and industrial sector growth away from the flood-prone area, which just obviously makes total sense. Population indicators are that, Skipton have a population of about 800 to 1,000 over the next 10 years, which will equate to a need for about 200 houses. We also need diversity in our building stock. We need unit development, we need townhouses. So, we know that there are a lot of people who live in the area who in one or two person houses and who'd like to downsize, but there's just not that opportunity. There certainly will be, I think, in future of developing residentially zoned land development, particularly. As Councillor Cole mentioned, I agree with him. I think that Ballarat apparently is reaching boundaries, so people are going to start looking further afield for where they can find affordable housing and affordable living. 40 minutes isn't far these days to commute, so I anticipate, I would be quite surprised if the figures that are indicated in the structure plan aren't exceeded, because it is a great little community, resilient, they work very well together, they've got a sort of a can-do attitude up in Skipton. I'd certainly like to see this town flourish in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Other commentary, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. To item 9.3, Property Leasing Policy Review 2024, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. The property leasing policy governs the way in which council administers the granting of leases and licences for council land and buildings. The policy has been reviewed with some minor amendments proposed, including references to the council plan around land leasing policy, as well as setting a standard percentage increase as opposed to CPI increases for leases. Recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy, thank you. Councillor Hickey?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There's not very many changes. Basically reflects a lot of the departmental changes and names. Includes a bit more right responsibilities, a bit more on the Aboriginal owner settlement, and Gender Equality Act has all been. It is, however, a very thorough policy. When I read through it, there's the wind in, I don't think, when we invoke this one, because it's a very well thought out and well developed policy. So to move the minor recommendations.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I to add, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commentary on the policy? If not, we'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those carried. Thank you. I'll move on to 9 contract 2024-012, supply and installation of synthetics for cell 16 at the Corangamite Regional Landfill in Narragansett. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report tonight provides council with a contract 2024-012 for the supply of geosynthetics. These are for cell 16, parts A and B at the Corangamite Regional Landfill, and the contract is an important one for the ongoing operation of the Corangamite Regional Landfill, as the materials form part of the EPA system on the site, and these strict control measures ensure quite a high standard for, but also the timeliness of this contract, as the testing and certification process prior to installation also takes some time. The tender process undertaken, including the advertising, assessment, and also presenting to council tonight, is in accordance with council's procurement policy. Councillors, the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Councillors, the recommendation before us, do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, and seconded by Councillor Hickey. Councillor Castrain.
Nothing really to say, Madam Mayor. I think it makes sense. Some sort of efficiencies that we can get by doing these two cells at the same time. So, yeah, happy to accept.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Hickey?
No, I have nothing further to add.
Is there any more commentary on this one? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to Contract 2025-010, supply and delivery of diesel fuel. Mr Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to contract 2025010, the provision of bulk diesel to the council depot located throughout the Shire, and also for the Corangamite landfill. The tender is undertaken in accordance with council's procurement policy. Proposed term of the contract is for 4 years, from the 1st of July 2024 to the 30th of June 2028. 3 submissions were received under a price was one of the criteria for assessment, as was local contribution, compliance with tender, ability to supply under the supply requirements, the timeframes. The recommendation from the assessment panel is contract to Reardon Fuels, who were the highest scoring tenderer over all the criteria. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, do I have a seconder? Councillor Canady?
Thank you, Mayor. Not too much to say, really. I mean, obviously, diesel fuels, it's an important contract to process because, I mean, it costs a lot of fuel and we can't do without it. But I have to say, look, I am confident in the tender evaluation that's undertaken by our officers, and it's covered. We've looked carefully at price and reliability, local benefit and compliance, and the successful tenderer has met. So I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Beard?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Not much more to say. I completely agree with Councillor Canady. The technical evaluation report that was undertaken and the people that were on that panel had the utmost faith in the outcome that they came to and have provided in the recommendation to us tonight. Trust the process.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary? Councillor Vogels?
I would just like to add that it seems advantageous as well that there's fuel linked to the contract of fuel price of Land Council plan to refuel at designated service stations. So I think that is a big win on top of all the other things that make it work.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 9.6, lease renewal for 31 Main Street in Darren. Mr Wolf.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, consider renewing the existing lease agreement for 31 Main Street in Darren. The property is currently leased to the Progress Association, who are delivering the Creative Hub at 31 through a volunteer sub. That committee is promoting connectivity and wellbeing through the teaching of art and craft activities. Commenced in September 2023 and expires on the 31st of July 2024. Progress Association requested a renewal term of 11 months with an option of a further term. Councillors, the recommendations for you.
Thank you. There's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Cole, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no trouble moving this. This is a great little thing that's been set up and run by the community hub. It brings, they have workshops for artists, all sorts of creative things happening. Darren Allen even has its own violin. Some of you wouldn't have expected to see that or hear that in Darren Allen. He also makes bows for violins, not Indians. So, I mean, an amazing little area that's trying to do all sorts of different things, and they're trying to sell their wares in the shop. So I've noticed cars pulled up out in the front quite regularly now when it's open. Their signage is probably to where it could be to let people know where it is, but they have recognised that and they're working on things to get more people in there. So yeah, it's a great little initiative and I'm more than happy to move it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Hickey.
Very happy to support this this renewed lease, particularly given my maternal child and health service. It was a facility that was going to be underutilised, so It's fantastic that the Creative Hub can actually work out of there. And as you know, I'm very, very happy to support anything creative within the Shire. So, yeah, happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Higgy. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 9.7, special final cost, Cameron Street footpath, Terang. Mr Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report confirms the completion of the concrete footpath on the eastern side of Cameron Street Terang from Neil Avenue to McWilliam Street. Costs have now been finalised as part of the special charge scheme and are less than estimated at the time of declaration. Total costs for the works were estimated at $94,643, but the final cost for the work, completed work, $9,805. This has resulted in a contribution for benefiting property owners changing from $1,661 to $19,951. It is recommended that council vary the special charge scheme and seek contribution from the benefiting property owners as per the attached schedule. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr Broadbent. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, I support this recommendation. John Kelly continues to impress with his efficiency. It's paid off again with his preparation and his calculations regarding costing related to parts. So it's very pleasing to be able to some of that expense to the adjoining property owners. But in addition to that, I will say that this path, success in Terang, I've just had so much positive feedback about it and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Castrone.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think that when we did the site, before the path was put in place, we were seeing people walking along Cameron Street in the dark, basically. So they're certainly they're off the roads. It was also an opportunity when we were there we have the site visits before we start these particular special charge schemes, and it was an opportunity for the people who live in Cameron Street to point out some issues that they had with and as a result of that, there's been quite significant drainage works being carried out in Cameron Street, as well as the footpath. And I think we did that also in Tate Street in Camperdown when we did a site visit there. The neighbouring properties identified drainage issues. So it's a good opportunity for councillors to attend meetings and to have officers there, and we can sometimes get smaller problems nipped in the bud before they become major problems. But congratulate Mr Kelly. He never fails to impress with his estimation of special charge schemes.
Thank you, Councillor Castrone.
My pleasure.
Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. Carried. Thank you. And I'll ask Councillor Beard to leave the room because she has a conflict. Couple? Yeah, agreed. Move on to item 9.8, special charge scheme, final cost for Parrot Street footpath. Mr Broadbent again, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, this is another report on a special charge scheme, this time footpath in Parrot Street in Cobden, from the east side of Victoria Street through to Walker Street. It's been finalised, and there's a very minor yet significant saving for this one. The initial estimate for works was $27,060, with final costs coming in at $27,303. So it's still under, but still important. So a minor reduction for the benefiting property owners in this one. It is recommended that council vary the cost of the special charge contributions, seek contribution from the benefiting property owners as per the attached schedule. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Broadbent. There's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrone. Thank you, Councillor Castrone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, this is a really important path in Parrot Street. 10 properties abut this and take part in the special charge scheme. So once again, it's good saving in the estimated cost to the final cost. I will say to those properties and property owners anyone who is part of a special charge scheme, they can apply to council to pay their in instalments or over 5 years, and the current rate, I think, is this RBA rate plus one reasonably small interest rate that they're paying, certainly not as small as it was a couple of years ago. Is experiencing financial difficulties in meeting those costs. I certainly urge them to speak to council staff, those people having to contribute and cause undue financial hardship on them. So, happy. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Hickey?
Just more generally on footpaths, it's certainly one way of reading some of our themes from our council plan. The connected community footpaths obviously connect people together. It's a healthy and resistant community, gives people the opportunity to be able to walk around because a lot of them are lit. They're also very smooth and tripping hazards are minimised. And certainly the larger scheme provides really good value for ratepayers and for residents of the area, and it's a system, and I don't know how John Kelly does it, but again, he's nipped it in the bud and come in under budget. So happy to second this motion.
You put him in charge of the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, is there any other commentary? And again, congratulations to your team, Sean, and Mr. Kelly, for getting this under budget again. His strike rate continues to be in the positive, so he's done very well. So there's no more commentary. I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? We'll get Councillor Beard back in. I'll move on to item 9.9, S6, Instrument of Delegation Council Staff. Mr. Senjo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. This report relates to delegations that Council can provide to Council. Council delegates a range of powers, duties and functions directly to the Chief Executive Officer, delegated committees, Council staff by way of instruments of delegation. Delegations enable certain day-to-day decisions to be made on Council's behalf, ensuring to deliver efficiently and effectively and in a timely manner. These delegations are made to positions of council officers and not named council. Delegations made by council are covered under state legislation, which is often amended. As such, regular reviews of the delegations. The delegations sought tonight reflect changes to the Planning and Environment Act of 1987 and are attached. Independent legal advice on proposed delegations. The recommendation to adopt the delegations and revoke the previous delegation.
Senjo. Councillor, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Kennedy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy.
Mayor, I don't have anything to say to this. It's a procedural matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Agree with, through you, Madam Mayor, agree with Councillor Kennedy, but I will add though, thank you, Mr. Sen. Very concise report. It's great to have you at the table still. Thank you.
Still, do you think he's going somewhere?
I just think if he's got this far to this type of emotion, then he's done really well. Recommendation. He's well and truly already got his feet under the table.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Is there any more commentary on this recommendation? Put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to 9.10, Business Assistance 2024. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the report provides information on the assessment and recommendation for the May round of the Business Assistance Scheme. This program is part of the Grow and Prosper framework, which includes a range of programs for council. The Business Assistance Scheme is a new way for council to support our community and is ongoing throughout the year. So it enables businesses to submit applications when convenient for their proposed project and streams specifically that they can look at. These streams include business facade improvement, creative industries, community enterprise, fees and enabling infrastructure. As indicated previously, the program so I would like to take this opportunity to encourage businesses to contact council to start planning their projects and getting their applications. Tonight there is one application. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Bond, sorry. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Castrone. Sorry, your hand was up first. Councillor Canady, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, of course, I'm happy to support this recommendation. AJ&M Automotive Centre, and so it's very pleasing to be able to fund them $537 for their, and there were some changes to our community assistance schemes some time ago, and it seems that our new business assistance scheme is certainly becoming familiar to our communities, and is that they are taking the opportunity to apply and to assistance for some of their small projects. This one comes in under stream 1, business facade improvement, and we've seen a lot of businesses take advantage of that particular stream to great benefit. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Castrone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and more than happy to support AJ&M Automotive. And as Mr. Bond mentioned, that this is a rolling fund, and I didn't say that there's still a facade section of the business assistance schemes. There's $36,000 of still outstanding a year. So if I'd certainly encourage businesses out there who want some work done on the facade, council staff will jump online.
Yep, agree. Thank you, Councillor Castrone. Any other commentary? Councillor.
Oh, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. And yes, it's that old case of if we don't use that funding, we may lose it. There might be a whole flurry, although it is up to council to determine that what we do with that funding, of course. But it is important that we do remind our community people out there, particularly our business owners, to get on, knowing that there's not much left of this financial year left. We've had a few of these the new rolling us now, and having seen that work actually turn over and actually be achieved in the community business precinct, it's so good to see that there's still that flow-on effect that doesn't only benefit the side, but also it's for those businesses that are helping support getting that work done. And for those that can remember, let's support our local businesses wherever we can. Continue to do that. There's never been a time more important now that we local tradies or our whoever that may be in our communities that have the advantage of being able to carry out this work on behalf of the applicant. So continue to give those shout outs wherever I can, because it really does help keeping our communities and particularly the business precincts ticking over.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, any other business we would like to raise tonight? Nope. Excellent. On to number 11, open forum. Are there any questions or statements from the online?
Madam Mayor, there are none online.
The gallery is still left with us tonight, which is lovely. I invite you to step up, speak if you'd like to, just and you have 5 minutes to speak. If anyone would like to. Sure, go.
Madam Mayor and councillors, myself and my partner Miriam, we live at 28 Mills, and I'd just like to thank you for approving the widening of Mills Road. And can I put in a request, please?
Yeah.
If that's all right. Maybe speed restriction signs to be put up. Street lights, maybe. I don't know. That's just something that's thought. But the widening of the road is great, and thank you very much.
Our pleasure. It's nice to see happy community members in their new infrastructure, so that's great. Anyone else like to have a speak tonight? No, Les. No one. Wow. Okay. All right. No. So we have no confidential items tonight. So on that note, keep warm, stay safe, and we'll catch you all next month. Thank you very much.